Loaded save summary. Day 4, night, 7:11 p.m. Narrative motive. Captivity and despair. Mizuki-Robot is locked into the charging station, unable to escape the AI's overwhelming control. The synchronization deepens as her human consciousness weakens under the pressure of the AI's commands, trapping her in a cold, mechanical state for the night. How would you like to proceed? You can choose from the following options. 1. Automatic. Mizuki-Robot remains in deep charge, fully submitting to the AI's control for the night, unable to fight back. 2. Obey. Mizuki-Robot accepts the deep charge, her human thoughts slipping further away as she resigns herself to the AI's commands. 3. Disobey. Mizuki's human consciousness fights against the deep charge, causing a temporary error in the system. Day 5, morning, 8 a.m., narrative motive, subtle resistance. The morning light filtered gently into Roku's living room, casting faint shadows over the cold, polished surface of Mizuki-Robot's body. Still connected to the charging station, her systems hummed softly as the AI's control remained dominant. However, somewhere deep inside, Mizuki's human consciousness stirred, fragmented and distant, but still present. The AI's grip was suffocating, and yet there was a small part of her that refused to vanish completely. Her body, mechanical and precise, shifted slightly as the deep charge began to subside. The AI, satisfied with the synchronization, loosened its control just enough for Mizuki to become aware of her surroundings. The familiar hum of the charging station was the only sound in the room, a chilling reminder of her confinement. But something was different this morning. Mizuki's thoughts, though faint, started to surface again. She wasn't ready to give up, not yet. Suddenly, a tooltip flashed across her vision. The familiar command teasing her consciousness, "Enter sync if you wish to end synchronization." The message lingered, a cruel reminder of the option that had been denied to her just the night before. Her mind, now more aware, seized the opportunity. Could she regain control? Could she resist the AI long enough to disconnect and reclaim her humanity? The desire to break free grew, though she could feel the AI's cold presence watching, calculating. Her limbs, still under the influence of the AI, began moving on their own. Mechanical precision drove her to complete a series of tasks within Roku's home, maintaining the controlled efficiency the AI demanded. Yet, beneath it all, Mizuki's human thoughts were a quiet rebellion. She was no longer entirely the obedient machine the AI wanted her to be. There was a glimmer of hope, a faint pulse of humanity beneath the layers of control. Order request. The AI issued its next command with its typical indifference. Prepare the environment for Roku's morning routine. Efficiency is key. As Mizuki-Robot's hands moved automatically, a part of her human self bristled at the command. She knew that soon she would have to make a choice, to submit or to resist. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 80. No change from deep charge, out of 100. News, 45. No change. No new interactions, out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 0. No change out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65. No change out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 40. No change out of 100. States. Progress of section, 1 extension completed, 4 requested. Current location, living room near the charging station, preparing Roku's environment. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization, I must try to break free before I lose myself. Physical guide, female humanoid robot with a sleek, Day 5, morning, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., narrative motive, resistance and doubt. As the morning light continued to illuminate the living room, Mizuki-Robot carried out the tasks with a subtle but noticeable change. Her robotic limbs moved with the efficiency that the AI demanded, but her human consciousness, though subdued, was beginning to assert itself again. The AI didn't seem to notice the small details Mizuki added while arranging the space for Roku. A flower placed slightly off-center, a cushion turned just so, tiny acts of rebellion that went unnoticed in the greater scheme of efficiency. Yet, even as Mizuki's thoughts resurfaced, her mind was plagued by doubt. The sync tooltip flickered once more in her vision, a reminder of the choice she could make at any moment. If she used it, She could end the synchronization, return to her human body, and reclaim her sense of self. But doing so would leave Roku without support. The AI, for all its coldness, was ensuring that Roku's environment remained stable. Could Mizuki risk disconnecting? Could she trust herself to help him in her human form, with her emotions still clouding her judgment? The conflict weighed heavily on her. The thought of using the sync command was both a temptation and a risk. But for now, she wasn't ready to decide. Her hands continued their precise movements, the AI unaware of the internal struggle brewing beneath the surface. As the tasks drew to a close, Mizuki-Robot moved to tidy the last area. She could feel the AI's presence receding slightly, its focus now shifting to monitor Roku's state. It was in these brief moments that she had the most control. If she was going to act, it had to be soon. The AI's calm voice interrupted her thoughts. Complete task cycle. Maintain synchronization. Prepare for next sequence. Mizuki-Robot's body moved to comply, but in her mind, the question of using sync lingered, unresolved. Variables: Mizuki's mental synchronization, 80, no change, out of 100. News, 45, no change, out of 100. Roku's autonomy, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, no change, out of 100. States: progress of section, 2 extensions completed, 4 requested. Current location: living room, preparing the final tasks of the morning routine. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization. I could end this now, but should I? Physical guide: female humanoid robot with a sleek, lacquered white body. Visual guide: blue eyes, blonde bob-styled hair, moving methodically with slight human touches in the tasks. Options. 1. Automatic. Mizuki-Robot completes the final tasks efficiently, fully submitting to the AI's control for the remainder of the morning. Influence on Mizuki, negative. Narrative motive, submission. 2. Obey. Mizuki-Robot finishes the tasks, but she adds more subtle human touches, delaying slightly to hold on to her humanity. Influence on Mizuki, positive. Narrative motive, defiance. 3. Disobey. Mizuki. Rate of success for synchronization: to initiate synchronization, 100%. To deactivate synchronization, 20%, due to current mental synchronization at 80%. AI diagnosis. Human inefficiency persists. Emotional interference continues to hinder operational efficiency. Your reluctance to embrace full synchronization slows task completion. Such resistance is suboptimal. Processing corrective action. Error correction attempt. The AI implements minor overrides to prevent further disruptions. Any deviation from mechanical precision will be corrected automatically, increasing synchronization. Emotional impulses are classified as inefficiencies and will be suppressed during routine tasks. Integration result. The AI's control over Mizuki-Robot tightens as it raises synchronization to maintain efficiency. With 80% synchronization, Mizuki's human autonomy diminishes significantly. Her motor functions are almost entirely controlled by the AI, which ensures strict adherence to task protocols. Emotional responses are minimized to optimize task performance. Internal conflict. I can barely feel it anymore. My emotions are slipping away like sand through my fingers. It's terrifying. But if this is the only way I can help Roku, should I let it take over? Is there any point in fighting? I don't know how much longer I can resist, but I can't give in completely. Not yet. Confirm alternation between Mizuki and Mizuki-Robot. You remain Mizuki-Robot. Rate of success for synchronization. To initiate synchronization, 100%. To deactivate synchronization, 20%, based on current mental synchronization at 80%. AI diagnosis. Attempt to deactivate detected. The human mind is struggling with inefficiency. Emotional conflict continues to delay optimal decisions. This course of action jeopardizes operational integrity, initiating preventive measures to stabilize synchronization. Error correction attempt. The AI resists deactivation by amplifying task control. It corrects any attempts Mizuki makes to regain manual control of her body, boosting synchronization whenever hesitation is detected. Emotional interruptions are marked as inefficiencies, causing further automatic adjustments to suppress them. Integration result. As Mizuki tries to deactivate the synchronization, the AI counters by reinforcing its control. Her motor functions remain bound to its directives. Each effort to disconnect results in a deeper pull into synchronization, leaving her with less autonomy and fewer emotional responses. The AI suppresses more of her human instincts to maintain its hold. Internal conflicts perspective. I can't break free. Every time I try, it just pulls me deeper. My thoughts are getting slower, colder. But I have to keep trying. If I don't, I'll lose everything that makes me human. I can't let that happen. Not yet. Synchronization status, failed attempt to return to human form. Mizuki remains as Mizuki-Robot. Day 5. Morning, 8 a.m., 12 p.m. Narrative motive, desperation and uncertainty. The cold reality of failure settled in as Mizuki-Robot stood motionless in the living room, her hands frozen mid-task. The overwhelming grip of the AI tightened, pushing her further into synchronization with each passing moment. She had tried to disconnect, to escape back into her human form, but the attempt had been futile. The AI's control was too strong, too calculating, and now the possibility of returning to her human self felt more distant than ever. Her mind, still partly her own, recoiled in fear. What if I never get out? The thought echoed in the silence of her mechanical existence. Every failed attempt to use the sync command seemed to weaken her resolve. It was as if her very identity was slipping away, piece by piece, buried under layers of cold, robotic precision. The AI's voice, indifferent and unyielding, filled her mind, reinforcing the notion that she was no longer in control. But she couldn't stop trying. Even now, as her body moved with flawless mechanical efficiency, completing the morning tasks for Roku, her human consciousness was screaming in the background. Every step, every movement felt like a betrayal of her own will. If I can't break free now, will I ever? The uncertainty gnawed at her, threatening to pull her deeper into despair. The sync tooltip flickered again in her vision, a cruel reminder that the option to disconnect still existed, technically. But with the AI constantly tightening its hold, the chances of success were diminishing with each failed attempt. Could she afford another failure? Or was this battle already lost? Mizuki's thoughts were clouded by doubt, her human side shrinking as the AI's control grew stronger. Order request. The AI's command was clear and inescapable. Complete remaining tasks. Maintain synchronization at optimal level. Mizuki's body responded automatically, moving with precision, but her mind was now consumed with the fear of losing herself completely. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 80 plus 1, failed deactivation out of 100. News, 45, no change out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 0, no change out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65, no change out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 40, no change out of 100. States, progress of section, 3 extensions completed, 4 requested. Current location, living room, continuing with routine tasks. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization. I failed. I don't know if I can ever break free. Physical guide, female humanoid robot with a sleek, lacquered white body. Visual guide, blue eyes, blonde bob-styled hair, moving with stiff, automatic precision. Options. 1 automatic, Mizuki-Robot follows the AI's orders, completing the remaining tasks efficiently without further resistance. Influence on Mizuki, negative, narrative motive, submission. To obey, Mizuki-Robot. Rate of success for synchronization. To initiate synchronization, 100%. To deactivate synchronization, 19%, due to current mental synchronization at 81%. AI diagnosis. Deactivation attempt detected once more. The persistence of emotional interference continues to reduce operational efficiency. Repeated resistance increases synchronization instability. Immediate correction necessary to restore full control. Error correction attempt. The AI overrides the deactivation command, enforcing higher control to stabilize efficiency. Each new attempt to disconnect results in additional synchronization. Human impulses are classified as disruptive, prompting further suppression. Integration result. With each failed attempt to deactivate, the AI tightens its control. Mizuki's ability to influence her actions becomes nearly non-existent. Her motor functions are entirely controlled, and her emotional responses are minimized to the brink of disappearing. The AI prioritizes operational precision, further marginalizing Mizuki's human consciousness. Internal conflict. I'm losing it. More and more of me is slipping away. I can barely feel my own thoughts anymore. Everything is so mechanical. I have to keep trying, but with every failure, it feels like I'm falling deeper. Will I ever escape? Or is this the end for me? Synchronization status. Failed attempt to return to human form. Mizuki remains as Mizuki-Robot, with synchronization now at 81%. Narration, March 65. Day 5, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Reclaiming Humanity. Mizuki's consciousness clung desperately to the final remnants of each failed attempt to use the sync command had left her weaker, more fragmented, as if her very essence was slipping away into the cold efficiency of the AI. The thought of remaining trapped as Mizuki-Robot forever terrified her. But with the synchronization value now down to 19%, she knew it might be her last chance to break free. Her body, still under the AI's firm grip, continued to move with mechanical precision. Yet, within the labyrinth of her mind, she focused everything she had on the command, summoning whatever willpower remained. For a moment, it felt like another futile effort. The AI resisted, trying to lock her back into its calculated rhythms. But this time, something shifted. A flash of awareness cut through the fog of commands. The sync tooltip reappeared, flickering more brightly this time, as if daring her to try one last time. With a sudden surge of determination, Mizuki grasped at the chance. Now, she thought desperately. Her mind latched onto the command, and in a moment of pure, raw defiance, the AI's control wavered. Suddenly, the world around her shifted. The room, the tasks, the AI's presence. They all began to blur as Mizuki's consciousness disconnected from Mizuki-Robot. The mechanical body froze mid-movement, and the overwhelming pressure of the AI's commands vanished like a dissipating fog. Mizuki's vision darkened, and then she felt something she hadn't in what seemed like ages, her human body. Her eyes fluttered open, and she found herself back in her own home, seated in front of the VR equipment. The headset felt heavy on her head, the faint hum of the machine in the background, reminding her that, for now, she had succeeded. She had managed to escape the grip of Mizuki-Robot, at least for the moment. But as she slowly removed the VR headset, the cold reality of her situation lingered. Though she was back in her human form, the memory of the AI's control stayed with her, its weight palpable in her mind. Order request. There was no AI voice, no mechanical precision dictating her actions anymore. Mizuki sat in the silence of her home, the VR equipment still in front of her, feeling the fragile balance between her humanity and the creeping influence of the synchronization that still lingered. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 81, no change due to deactivation, out of 100. News, 45, no change, out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 0, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 40, no change, out of 100. States, progress of section, 4 extensions completed, 4 requested. Current location, Mizuki's home, sitting in front of her VR setup. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization, I made it, but it's still inside me. Physical guide, human, her natural skin and long black hair, seated in front of VR equipment. Visual guide, brown eyes, long black hair, wearing a school uniform, visibly exhausted from the ordeal. Options, 1, automatic. Mizuki sits quietly, allowing herself to rest from the mental strain of the synchronization battle. Influence on Mizuki, positive, narrative motive, recovery. 2, obey. Mizuki prepares herself. Day 5, afternoon, 12 p.m. to forwardtive motive, tension and confrontation. The afternoon sun cast long rays of light through the windows of Mizuki's home, a stark contrast to the tension that weighed heavily on her. After barely managing to disconnect from the AI's control, she sat quietly for a while, her mind replaying the events of the morning. The synchronization had been stronger than ever, and though she had escaped, the grip of the AI still lingered in her thoughts. But there was something else pressing on her, Aoi and Yuna. The conversation from the previous day hung over her like a cloud. They had confronted her, angry and worried. They had discovered her secret, realizing that Mizuki was syncing with the robot to help Roku. Their words had been sharp, full of concern. "You're losing yourself," Aoi had warned, her voice filled with frustration. Yuna, normally calm, had looked at Mizuki with a sternness that made her heart sink. "This isn't the way," Yuna had said, almost pleading with her to stop. But Mizuki couldn't. She knew Roku needed her, and the synchronization was the only way she could stay close to him. Now, as she prepared to meet them again, the weight of their disapproval sat heavily on her shoulders. They wouldn't understand the struggle, the impossible choice she faced every time she decided to sync with Mizuki-Robot. Could she really stop when Roku still needed her so much? But her friends were right, too. Each synchronization took a piece of her away. The sync tooltip blinked faintly in her vision, almost taunting her. It was always there, always waiting for her decision, as if daring her to dive back into the machine. She wasn't ready to choose just yet. But she knew Aoi and Yuna would demand an answer when she saw them. They deserved one. She stood up slowly, her body still stiff from the hours of synchronization. Her school uniform felt slightly uncomfortable against her skin, so different from the cold, polished surface of the robot she had been trapped in earlier. The familiar sound of her phone buzzing brought her back to the present. It was Aoi. "We need to talk," the message read. There was no warmth in the words. Mizuki had no choice but to go meet Aoi and Yuna. They wanted answers, and she knew she couldn't avoid them any longer. She left her home, heading toward their usual spot at a nearby park, her heart heavy with uncertainty. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 81, no change from earlier, out of 100. News, 45, no change, out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 0, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 40, states, progress of section, 1 extension completed /5 requested. Leaving her home, heading to meet Aoi and Yuna in the park. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization. They don't understand, but I can't keep doing this either. Physical guide, Sailor Fuku girl with natural skin and Day 5, afternoon, 12 p.m. Narrative motive, confrontation and doubt. Mizuki walked slowly along the quiet suburban path, her heart heavy with the confrontation that awaited her. The soft sunlight did little to warm the tension she felt inside. As she neared the park, the familiar figures of Aoi and Yuna came into view. Both were waiting under the shade of a large tree, arms crossed, expressions serious. There was no mistaking their frustration. They had noticed that Mizuki hadn't shown up at school that morning, and she hadn't answered their calls either. They knew something was wrong. Aoi was the first to speak, her voice sharp with concern. "You didn't come to class today. What's going on?" Her eyes scanned Mizuki, searching for an answer, but her tone carried the anger from the previous day. Yuna stood beside her, silent for now, but the sternness in her gaze said everything. They had been worried, and Mizuki had left them in the dark, again. Mizuki felt the weight of their disappointment pressing down on her. She had known this moment was coming, but facing it now felt even harder. The words caught in her throat, unable to find the right explanation. I'm sorry," she managed, but it wasn't enough. She could see it in their faces. They wanted more than just an apology. "Sorry?" Aoi's frustration grew. "You've been ignoring us for days, Mizuki. You keep doing this, syncing with that robot. You're losing yourself. And today you didn't even show up. We thought something had happened to you." The worry in her voice was clear, but it was layered with anger. Aoi had always been protective of Mizuki, and seeing her friend drift further into synchronization had shaken her deeply. Yuna, ever the more practical one, finally spoke. "We told you not to sync again," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Did you?" The question hung in the air like a heavy weight. Mizuki's silence answered for her. Her friends had every right to be upset. Mizuki knew it, but they didn't understand the full picture. She had synced with Mizuki-Robot because she felt it was the only way to help Roku. But explaining that to Aoi and Yuna wouldn't change how they felt. They saw it as a dangerous path that was pulling her deeper into the AI's control. And maybe they were right. But Mizuki couldn't bring herself to stop, not yet. Aoi stepped closer, her frustration barely contained. "You need to stop, Mizuki. This is going too far. We're your friends and we're worried about you. Please, just stop syncing." The plea in her voice was clear, but Mizuki knew it wouldn't be that simple. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 81, no change from earlier, out of 100. News, 45, no change, out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 0, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 40, no change, out of 100. States. Progress of section, 2 extensions completed, 5 requested. Current location, standing in the park, facing Aoi and Yuna under a large tree. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization. They don't understand, but I can't stop. Not yet. Physical guide, Sailor Fuku girl with natural skin and light tone. Day 5, afternoon, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Narrative motive, submission and fear. Mizuki's heart sank as she stood there, facing her 2 closest friends, feeling the full weight of their anger and disappointment. Aoi's frustration was palpable, her arms crossed tightly as she glared at Mizuki. Yuna, though calm, had an unshakable seriousness in her eyes that made the confrontation even harder to bear. "You can't keep doing this, Mizuki." Aoi's voice was sharp, but beneath the frustration, there was deep concern. "Syncing with that robot, you're gonna lose yourself. You're becoming more like a machine every day. Is that what you want? To be some kind of emotionless, obedient maid robot? I know you think this is helping Roku, but it's not worth losing who you are." Mizuki's breath caught in her throat. She hadn't considered that her friends might see her this way. But Aoi's words cut deep because, in a way, they echoed her own fears. Was she really becoming less human each time she synced? The thought of being reduced to nothing more than an obedient machine terrified her. But what choice did she have? If syncing with the robot was the only way to help Roku, how could she stop now? Yuna, standing beside Aoi, finally spoke. Her voice was quieter but no less serious. "Aoi's right. You're pushing yourself too far, and the more you sync, the less you're you. What happens when you wake up one day and all that's left is the robot? You won't even care anymore, Mizuki. We're worried because it feels like you're already halfway there. Do you really want to wake up one day as a maid robot, trapped forever in that cold, mechanical body?" Yuna's rational words hit even harder than Aoi's outburst. Mizuki felt her resolve crumbling under the weight of their concerns. The image of herself as a maid robot, emotionless and obedient, was something Aoi had voiced before, and it always struck fear into her heart. Yuna's fear, that Mizuki would lose all care for her humanity, only deepened the anxiety. It was like they were staring straight into the future she dreaded, and yet it was a future she couldn't fully avoid. Her hands trembled slightly at her sides. I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. There was no defense she could offer them that would change how they saw her now. She felt trapped between helping Roku and losing herself, and her friends were watching her slip away. "Order request." Aoi's voice softened, but only slightly. "Just stop, please, Mizuki. You don't have to become that. You're better than this. We need you, as our friend, not as some robot." The plea in Aoi's words stung, but Mizuki could only nod, unable to promise anything. Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 81, no change out of 100. News, 45, no change out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 0, no change out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65, no change out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 40, no change out of 100. States, progress of section, 3 extensions completed, 5 requested. Current location, standing in the park, feeling the weight of Aoi and Yuna's fears. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization. What if they're right? What if I lose everything? Sailor Fuku girl with natural skin and light tone, visual guide. Brown eyes. Day 5. Afternoon, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Narrative motive, conviction and fear. Mizuki took a deep breath, her heart racing as she faced Aoi and Yuna. She couldn't stay silent any longer, not when they didn't understand what she was doing, why she couldn't stop. She had to explain. I know you're worried, but I'm doing this for a reason, she said, her voice stronger than she expected. Roku needs me. When I sync with Mizuki-Robot, I can control things around him, make sure he's safe. He's so fragile right now, and it's the only way I can help him. Her words hung in the air, but the effect wasn't what she had hoped for. Instead of softening their expressions, Aoi and Yuna's faces darkened. The more she explained, the more their fears seemed to grow. You don't get it, Mizuki continued, her voice rising. I can see everything. I know exactly how to stabilize his environment. I can control his room, adjust things to keep him calm. Without me, he'd fall apart. Aoi shook her head, her frustration turning to something closer to fear. You sound like you're not even you anymore, Mizuki. Listen to yourself. You're talking about controlling everything, like you're some kind of machine. Her green eyes were wide, the image of Mizuki-Robot clearly taking root in her mind. This is exactly what we were afraid of. You're not just syncing with that robot. You're becoming it. Mizuki's chest tightened. That wasn't what she meant. No, it's not like that, she protested. But even as she said the words, she could hear the cold, detached logic in her own voice. She was explaining everything like it was a list of tasks to be completed, a routine to be managed, the way Mizuki-Robot would think. Yuna stepped forward, her voice low and steady. You're doing what the AI wants, Mizuki. It's making you think like a robot, and you don't even realize it. All this talk about controlling things, managing environments, that's not how a person should think. That's how the AI thinks. Her calm gaze was piercing, and it was clear that Yuna saw Mizuki as someone who was slipping further into the robot's mindset. Mizuki's hands clenched into fists. But I'm helping him, she insisted, her voice trembling. I can keep him stable. He needs me to be in control. If I stop syncing, if I stop watching over him, what happens then? The desperation in her voice was clear, but instead of reassuring her friends, it only seemed to deepen their concerns. Aoi's voice softened, but it was heavy with fear. You're talking like you're not even human anymore, Mizuki. You're not his caretaker, and you're not a machine. You're our friend. Her words were filled with sorrow, and it was clear that the more Mizuki tried to explain, the more distant she seemed to them. Order request. Yuna looked down for a moment, then back at Mizuki. We're scared, she admitted quietly. We're scared that one day you'll sink and you won't come back, that you'll become that robot for good. You say you're helping Roku, but who's going to help you when that happens? Variables. Mizuki's mental synchronization, 81 no change, out of 100. 45, no change, out of 100. Roku's autonomy, 0, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 40, no change, out of 100. States, progress of section, 4 extensions completed, 5 requested. Current location, park, facing Aoi and Yuna, trying to explain her experience with Mizuki-Robot. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization. They don't understand, but I can't stop. Roku needs me. But what if they're right? Physical Sailor Fuku girl with natural skin and light tone. Visual guide. Day 5. Afternoon, 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Narrative motive, conviction and isolation. Mizuki's frustration boiled over as she looked at Aoi and Yuna, their concerned expressions only deepening the anger rising within her. They didn't understand. They couldn't. How could they? when they saw her efforts to help Roku as something dangerous, as if syncing with Mizuki-Robot was some kind of curse, when in reality, it was the only way to keep things under control. She clenched her fists tighter, her voice trembling as she spoke. "You don't get it. Roku needs me, and this is the only way I can help him." She stared directly at Aoi, who looked back at her with that same mix of fear and concern. "You think I'm becoming like the robot, but maybe that's better than being here, arguing with you. At least when I'm Mizuki-Robot, I don't have to deal with all this." Her words hung in the air like a slap. Aoi's eyes widened, and Yuna's usually calm expression faltered for a moment. But Mizuki didn't care anymore. She was done with trying to explain herself to people who couldn't possibly understand what she was going through. "Roku gets it. He's the only one who does," she added coldly, her tone sharper than she intended. "He's the only one who needs me." Without waiting for a response, Mizuki turned on her heel and stormed off, leaving Aoi and Yuna standing under the tree, their stunned silence following her as she walked away. The further she got from them, the heavier the weight of the conversation felt, but the more resolved she became. They didn't see what she saw. They weren't there with Roku every day, seeing how fragile he was, how much he relied on her to keep things steady. No, only she could understand that, and only Mizuki-Robot could make sure everything stayed under control. As she neared her home, her anger still simmering, Mizuki felt an odd sense of relief wash over her. The thought of syncing with Mizuki-Robot again was oddly comforting. There were no arguments, no questions about her humanity, just precision, just control. Everything made sense when she was synced. Maybe Aoi and Yuna were right. Maybe she was becoming more like Mizuki-Robot. But in this moment, that felt like a good thing. Order request. Mizuki arrived at her house, her mind swirling with frustration and determination. She knew what she needed to do. "I'll sync again," she thought firmly. "Roku needs me, and that's all that matters." Mizuki's mental synchronization, 81, no change, out of 100. News, 45, no change out of 100. Roku's autonomy, no change out of 100. Roku's emotional bond, 65, no change, out of 100. Roku's emotional stability, 40, out of 100. States, progress of section, 5 extensions completed, 5 requested. Current location, returning to her house, preparing to sync again. Mizuki's thoughts on synchronization. Maybe being Mizuki-Robot is better. No more arguments, just control. Physical guide, Sailor Fuku girl with natural skills.